I don't think it'll be included in the main story. That is a direct quote from Machiro Oda when he was doing his 10-question Q&A, answering questions about certain things going on in the One Piece series, certain events, systems, and even characters. And in this 10-question Q&A, Oda does something that I think is happening more and more frequently, where Oda is telling us key details about the One Piece story, not within the actual series itself, but through outside series sources, whether it be the SBS's, whether it be Vivid Cards, and as of late, it's in the latest Q&A where he reveals a lot of the gist of the Rocky Port incident. An incident that we haven't known the full details of. We got some snippets here and there, but we still lack the entire gist of it. But in question 9, Oda says, and I quote, "To put it simply, after hearing there's a poneglyph on Pirate Island, Law snuck in and hijacked a Masi V passenger ship called the Rocky Port, riding it all the way to Pirate Island. The ship was carrying the king and another important figure from a certain country. In reality, however, the ship Law boarded was a smuggling vessel doing business with Pirate Island under the flag of that same country, which led to some dangerous trouble brewing. Law then got into conflict with the pirates. Later, Kobe and Blackbeard boarded with their respective objectives, resulting in the three fighting together. That's what came to be known as the incident. As the incident settled, Blackbeard became king of Pirate Island, Law joined the Royal Sea Warlords, and Kobe came to be known as the hero." So obviously, not everything. There are details that are sorely lacking, like Blackbeard and Kobe just slowly hopping on in the fray as well. How and why the exact details are still unknown. But the fact that Oda felt comfortable enough to give us at least that much, and then beforehand say, I don't think it'll be included in the main story, even though this moment is pivotal to a host of characters, mainly Kobe and Blackbeard, since BB runs Pirate Island as his main base, that he wants to make into a world government certified nation, and then Kobe swelled in popularity over the past 2 years, and the reverence that folks have for him is because of this incident. Somehow Oda doesn't have the time to include this into the main story. So you let me know how you feel personally about Oda telling us the gist of things about the Rocky Port incident in the box below. Because here's what I would say. I was finding it pretty concerning, almost jarring, that a few years ago, we were getting information via the Vivid Cards, which Oda does openly support, about details that Oda could have easily inserted, at least I thought, easily inserted into the story at some point in the future, but instead chose, actually, let's just do it here in a data book. And to me, the beginning of this sort of fear that I have was the Volume 7 data book, where in the Volume 7 data book, again, data books that Oda, he has confirmed he supports, we not only found out about the fruit name of Fujitora's ability, the Zushi no Mi, the press fruit, which I thought at some point in the future would have been easy. Like, for example, when a few good men actually went into the Holy Land, they could have had a scene or a moment where, let's say, Karasu or Morley mentions Fujitora's ability. So not only do you get his reveal of his power at that moment, but also you get a sense of how effective the Rev are at information gathering. Of course, that's in hindsight, but that would have been a great time to do it compared to having it, let's say, stuffed away in a Vivid Card. And then we found out that Sengoku had Conqueror's Haki. What? This to me was a huge deal because Sengoku was the first Marine in the entire history of the story that had confirmed Conqueror's Haki, even though he had never shown that ability throughout the entirety of Marine 4. There are no signs and hints even of that, where Sengoku had Conqueror's Haki. Someone like Whitebeard, you could argue there were some signs here and there, but Sengoku, no. There wasn't a lick, not a gram, nothing with Conqueror's Haki being in Sengoku's repertoire in his combat schema. So the fact that these data books told us this new information that we never knew, but I don't think most folks would consider to be substantive information, not things like how often they get haircuts or their favorite food or their hobbies. And then Oda co-signs that, I thought at the time was crazy. And you may say, okay, hold on. Those are the data books, the Vivid Cards. They do at times update them and change things around, so it makes sense to rely on them to an extent on information. And it's not necessarily a big deal, you could argue, because these are characters, Sengoku more than Fujitora, they have been outside of the relevance and the paradigm of the story for quite a bit of time. However, when it comes to prime time characters, prima characters, Oda will give us information that a lot of fans will find to be pretty useful in the manga, but Oda, because of pacing and scheduling, or in his mind, thinks to himself, I don't have the time, so let me talk about it in an SBS. One of the biggest signs of this first started in SBS 101. At the very end of it, he explains that Onimaru the Fox actually noticed that Zoro looked like Ushimaru, but he didn't draw that in. He thought that for the readers, it'd be too confusing, and he didn't see him actually putting down this information in the main story, so he'd do it elsewhere. And then what happened is that 4 SBSs later, we get Zoro's family tree. Bro, you're telling me Oda couldn't have a chapter or 2 dedicated to Zoro's lineage when it came to the village girl that Kozaburo met when they left Wano country going to the East Blue, founding Shimotsuki village, and then Shimotsuki Furiko, the sister of Ushimaru, meeting with Zoro's grandfather, Ronor Pinzoro, and then from there, you have Ronor Arashi, and then you have Terra from Teen Titans sliding in as Zoro's mom? Bruh, to me, this would have been some of the best material in all of Wano country in the manga if Oda actually wrote that and drew that in the manga. It's interesting for damn sure in SBS, and it gets a lot of highlight and focus, undeniably, but it would have been tremendous to find out the details about this in the actual manga, have them be drawn as characters, and let's even get snippets of Kozaburo, Ushimaru's sister, let's say through someone like Yasue, who's one of the first characters that Zoro met in Wano country, and then building a stronger connection with Zoro. Maybe you have Yasue talk about various things to Zoro that Zoro at the time may never understood, but then he started to realize they actually involve him and Shimotsuki village where he grew up from. In hindsight, could have done, the potential was there, but again, for some reason or another, Oda felt like he just couldn't get that done in the actual canon manga itself. And to me, it is sad, and also for the future, it is concerning, because the story does have many things that are left up in the air, but Oda could tell us information about this kind of stuff in an SBS, and it's like a big deal. So for example, right, we got a lot of kids' backstory in SBS 104, the one before we had Zoro's family tree unveiled, and this was controversial for sure. And what's happening really soon is that we're actually getting a light novel focusing on Law and how he came to claim his cursed blade Kikoku, which means devil's cry, devil may cry. I am the storm that is approaching. Great franchise, great game. Now you can argue it's hard to find the time at some point in the story to try and insert a lot of Law focus, saying how he actually got his sword Kikoku and so on, but at the same time, Law is alive, and this information could have been, let's say, prevalent in the future when Law and Beppo, let's say, return to the story, and then in doing so, not only could you have more intel about Law in canon, but also, let's say, expand upon cursed blades even more. And we do know now that they are blades that have very strong personalities, but let's say seeing another swordsman in One Piece, a top-end swordsman, have to deal with his own cursed blade, his own cursed story, like expanding upon that aspect of the One Piece world, which let's say may tie into Zoro and Mihawk in the future, right?
No.
Unlike the Ace Light novels, this one won't be canon. But these are 2 supernova, very prominent ones, for getting content. Okay, so let's say, for example, there is one last supernova remaining that we haven't had the time to focus on at all, and that's Uroge. What if Oda can't really find the time to insert Uroge into the story appropriately for whatever reason? Well, he could have a Q&A or an SBS, a hefty one, on Uroge and what happened to him after he met Kaido. And that could happen. That could happen. It is not outside the paradigm of what Oda could do. And I can keep on increasing the stakes for this. Another example, details on the Kuzan versus Sakazuki, the Aokiji versus Akainu fight. What if Oda decides to give us SBS information on that fight because he feels like there's not enough time to insert that somehow, some way into the canon manga? Do you see how it already is problematic and how it can be in the future even more problematic? Yeah, that's a spicy word, problematic for sure. And to be fair, we are getting it in some way. Content is content. It may not be the best kind of content that we want to get or receive, but it's still there in some capacity, and that is probably better than not having it at all. But I do feel like we do miss out on a lot of great content for the actual canon manga because of the SBSs and the Q&As in many respects. Not to say that Oda can't get to them in the canon manga, but for most of these things, I get the feeling that he will not have the time to put them in the canon manga. Even though Shonen Jump will give him as much time as he needs to. If they want him working until he's 65, 70, my God, they will do that. But at the same time, the more breaks he takes, the more time he takes off, the less time he can do the manga week to week to week, means the less time he has in general for himself, for his family, for the other things he wants to do in his life, the less time he has for those things. What winds up happening too is a lot of the stuff is not animated. Even though Toei they should absolutely, positively take advantage of the SBSs, of the Q&As, of the light novels, of the cover stories a lot more. They don't. And I think manga readers for One Piece are more likely to read SBSs and Q&As, things like that. But anime watchers, anime only watchers, I think specifically, are a lot less likely to actually go the extra mile to read SBSs and Q&As and things of that sort. And again, to be fair here, I would say even in terms of manga readers for One Piece, a lot of One Piece fans in general do not actively go out to seek outside material other than the manga and the anime and then movies on occasion. So all I have to say is that I think that Oda does have an SBS problem, a Q&A problem, a data book problem. How big is the problem? It may not necessarily be huge because the story is still quality, but we do miss out on things that could really be damn dope, even for primetime Prima characters that a lot of One Piece fans would love to see drawn and obviously as a result animated. But that is my stance on this subject matter at hand. Just seeing the Rocky Port gist of it, I was like, because it was one of the things that I wanted to find out more details of in canon manga, drawn by Oda. And it's not to say he won't get to it, but now that we know more about it, it feels like it may lessen the impact of that moment when we do get it in, if we do get it in the manga. So let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. If you enjoy your boys' video content, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click on that bell to join the notification squad. I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye-bye.